Today I'm going to be showing you how to avoid this little seam running up the center of your solid granny squares to get them looking perfect without turning your work. Now, before we go any further, I just want to clarify there is absolutely nothing wrong with having the seam going up the center of your squares. In fact, I even teach you how to make a solid granny square on this channel with this method. But sometimes you don't want to see it at all. Now, whether that's because the particular yarn you are using is highlighting that chain 2 seam, or perhaps you're using a variegated yarn and you want it to neatly go round and round rather than having the little step up that you get by having the seam in the center of your work. Can I just say these two yarns are the same? Yet look how different the squares look. This one is more of a step up. This one is a smooth round. So if that seam isn't working for you, watch this video. We're going to eliminate it entirely without turning your work back and forth. To begin, we're going to start with a magic ring and then chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Now those 3 chains count as your very first double crochet, and into this ring we need to work 2 more double crochet stitches. So just straight into the ring, 2 double crochet. That's 1 and that's 2. Chain 2 and work 3 more doubles into this central ring. 1, 2, and 3. This little chain 2 forms our corner space, so we've already created 2 sides and a little corner space here. Now we need another corner space, so go ahead and chain 2, 1, 2, and then we need another side, so work 3 double crochet into the magic ring. 1, 2, 3. Chain 2 to create another little corner space, and then we need 1 more side. So we have 1, 2, 3 sides already. We need 4 for it to be a square. So into this magic ring, we're going to work 3 more double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. So we already have 1, 2, 3 chain 2 corner spaces. Now what makes this solid square seamless without having to turn is how we end the round. Now normally you would chain 2, slip stitch and close it up, but we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to end with a stitch. So we're going to end with a double crochet into the top of the starting chain. So go back to where we started. You've got 2 double crochets and you have this chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Into the top of that chain 3, we're going to work a double crochet stitch just to close the round. So just into the chain, whichever part of the chain you can get into, we're going to work a double crochet stitch. So we're doing that instead of a chain 2. Now you can go ahead and close up this magic ring at the back. So now we have the first round complete. We have some little chain 2 corner spaces, and then we have a little space here which we've formed by closing the round with a stitch. Now just a note on which stitch to use. A lot of this is going to come down to your personal tension, the yarn you are using, the hook size you're using, and your preference. Now for me personally, closing with a double crochet stitch using slightly chunkier yarn works perfectly. You can see all my little spaces are the same size. If you find working a double crochet into the top of that chain leaves you with a hole here, which is bigger than the other 3, then you can absolutely alter this to a stitch which works for you. Now, a stitch I would suggest if your yarn is finer than what I'm using and you find it's left a too big a hole would be a half double crochet. So right into the top of that chain 3, instead of a double crochet, work a half double crochet. That will give you a slightly smaller gap. So if that works for you, close with a half double crochet. If you find that it is still too big when compared to your chain 2 spaces, you can chain 1 and end with a single crochet into the top of that chain 3. So just work a single crochet in there instead. It is all a little bit of trial and error. You can see that has crushed in my corner slightly when using this yarn. So for me personally, a double crochet works perfectly. You are absolutely free to adapt which stitch you close with depending on how your square looks. Now for round 2, I'm going to start with a chain 2 instead of a chain 3 to act as my starting stitch. From this point on, I'm going to chain 2 instead of 3. The reason why we chain 3 right in the beginning is when we pull this magic circle tight, it tends to pull the chains down with it. So having 3 chains for this very first round that we just did leaves everything nicely in height. From this point on, I find that 3 chains can be a little bit too baggy. So for me personally, I will then chain 2. So straight up from where we've just joined with that stitch, chain 2. And this chain 2 will now act as the first double crochet of this round. Now we're going to work a double crochet into this space we created when we closed up the last round. So straight into that gap, work 1 double crochet. Now, because we are making a solid granny square, we're going to be crocheting into the top of each of these stitches from the row below. These first 2 stitches can throw you off, so I'll show you exactly where we place these first 2 stitches, and then after that it's relatively plain sailing because you can clearly see the stitches from the row below. So your very first double crochet for this side here will be worked into the top of the chain from the round below. Now you can see it, I'm pulling here. This is where we joined to finish the last round. So into the same place that you ended with a stitch is where we're going to work our first double crochet for these side sections. So into that same spot at the top of the chain 3, work a double crochet. Now the stitch next to that will be slightly oddly stretched here and here. So you want to go under there, but make sure you are picking up both loops of the slightly distorted stitch. So under the front loop and the back loop, and work your double crochet. The next stitch we're going to work into, you can see really clearly, no distortions, just straight into the top of that double crochet, work a double crochet. So we have 3 stitches worked over the 3 stitches from the row below. Then we are at a chain 2 corner space, and in that chain 2 corner space we're going to form a new corner. And how we do that is into this chain 2 space here, we work 2 double crochet stitches. That's 1, and that's 2. Chain 2, which forms a new corner space. And then back into this chain 2 spot, we need to finish the corner with 2 double crochets. Just work straight into the chain 2 space. So we have formed a new corner in the chain 2 space from below. Now we are working along a side, and this very first stitch that we have to work into might be slightly covered up by that last double crochet that you made. So scoot your corner around a little bit so you can clearly spot the top of that stitch here. And into these next 3 stitches, work 1 double crochet into each. 1, 2, and 3. Then we're back to a chain 2 corner space. So in there, we're going to form a new corner. So 2 double crochets, 1, 2, chain 2, 1, 2, and work 2 double crochets back into that same spot. Work 1 double crochet into the top of each of the double crochets from the row below. We have 3 there, so we need 3 stitches. We're at a corner, so we've got our chain 2 here, the third one. Work a new corner into there, so 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets, all into that same chain 2 space. Now we are working on this final side back to where we first started the round. So we've come all the way down, along, back around, and we're working on this fourth side. Just as before, work a double crochet into the top of the 3 stitches from the row below. So just create your side as you created the other 3. 1, 2, and 3. Now to end the round, we started with a chain 2 and a double crochet. So we need to finish off the corner in this spot here, because at the moment we're lacking a section here. So to do that, we're going to be working into this space here, which is where we started from. And into this space here, we're going to finish off this corner section with 2 double crochets. So work 2 double crochets into this spot here where my finger is, just into that gap, 1 and 2. Now to finish the round, we're going to do exactly what we did in this very first round, and we're going to close with a stitch. We are not going to chain 2 on this final corner. We're going to close with the stitch, and we're going to work into the top of the chain 2 that we started with. So here is your first double crochet you made, and here is the chain 2 right there. 1, 2. Those are your 2 chains. Into the top of that chain, close with your closing stitch. For me, that's the double crochet. So I'm going to end with a double crochet into the top of the starting chain 2. Now for round 3 is the pattern repeat round. So all that means is round 3 is the one that we're going to go round and round with until your square is the size that you want it to be. So for round 3 and all subsequent rounds, we're going to start with the chain 2. 1, 2, just chaining 2 straight up from that stitch. Then into the space we formed by closing up with a stitch, we're going to work 1 double crochet, just the 1. So we've formed half a corner, and we will finish that corner when we finish this round. Now, just as before, we're going to work 1 double crochet into each of the stitches from the row below. Every time we make a new round, we increase the stitch count that we have to work into by 4. On this round, we worked into just 3 stitches, but we also made corners, so we have added an additional 4 stitches. So we know for this round, we'll be working into the tops of 7 double crochets for the side. On the round after that, we would then be working into 11 crochets along the side. The round after that, we would then be working into 15 stitches. So your sides will grow by 4 more stitches each time you come back around. Now the first one is worked into the top of the chain 2. So where we joined to close the round, see here is my double crochet, which I crocheted into the top of the chain 2. That is where we work our first double crochet stitch into that same spot where we also closed the round. And then the stitch after that will be slightly distorted. So we want to ensure that we get both loops of that stitch. And then for the remaining 5 stitches, we can clearly see them and we can just work our double crochets without worrying about it. So those are my 7 double crochets for this side section complete. Then you'll be at a chain 2 spot, and in there we form a new corner with 2 double crochet, chain 2, and 2 more double crochets all worked in to that exact same chain 2 space. So we're forming a new corner in the chain space of the corner below. Again, we know we have 7 stitches to work into. So this first one, make sure it's not covered up by your corner, and we work 1 double crochet into each of the 7 below. Then you're at a corner and we form a new corner in the chain 2 space. So 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet, all into that same spot. Once you hit a chain 2 space, form a new corner, 2 double crochet, chain 2, and 2 double crochet, all into that chain 2 space. Once you have worked 3 sides, we have our 4th, so work 1 double crochet into each of those 7 double crochet stitches from the row below. And then you are back to your starting corner with your chain 2 and that first double crochet. We need to complete this last corner before we can finish this round. So into the space below, we're going to work just 2 double crochet stitches. 1, 2. And then we're going to close with a stitch into the top of these 2 chains here. So your starting chains, we're going to close with a stitch. For me, that's a double crochet stitch. So you're going to repeat that last round until your square is the size you want it to be, or the amount of rounds dictated in the pattern you are following. So remember, each time we do a new round, the stitch count on the side will have increased by 4 stitches. So we had 7 that we worked into. For this next round, we will have 11 to work into. The round after that, you will then have 4 more stitches. So it will be 15 stitches to work into. Now, when you are ready to finish off your work, we will end this corner section here differently for your very last round. So go ahead and make the square the size you want it to be, and then meet me just before we close up that final round. Now, I will just note that for me personally, 5 rounds seems to be the sweet spot for these solid granny squares. It could just be a me thing, but I find when I go beyond 5 rounds and I start doing 6, 7, 8 rounds to make a truly huge square, the solid granny square for me personally has a tendency to get a bit floppy after 5 rounds. So just bear that in mind if you were considering taking the solid granny square much bigger. As I say, it could just be a me thing, but that's what I personally have found. So I'm just completing the final stitch on the final side of my solid granny square. This is going to be my final size of my square. I am ready to finish my square. So the finishing few stitches are different to how we have done all the other rounds. That's my final side stitch. I'm back to the start where I have my chain 2 and my double crochet, and I need to finish off this corner with 2 double crochet stitches just as we have been doing. So work my last 2 double crochets in there. Now this is the point at which we would join with a stitch for all these other rounds. However, I want this final round to match my other chain 2 corners. This is particularly important if you are doing joining where you need the counts to absolutely match. So you have 2 chains and we're sewing or crocheting them together, and you absolutely need those 2 chains on all 4 corners. So to finish the very final corner of your solid square, we are going to chain 2. 1, 2. And then we're going to join with a slip stitch to the top of these 2 chains that you started the round with. So where we would normally join with a stitch, we are going to chain 2 and slip stitch into that chain 2 that you started with. So I'm just going to slip stitch, then chain 1, cut my yarn, leaving a nice long length to weave in. Pull that up and out, pull it tight. And now you have chain 2s in each of your 4 corners, so they all absolutely match. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope it has given you quite a nice little trick there to be able to create a seamless solid granny square without turning your work. Please do let me know what you think of this square down in the comments below. And until next time, happy crocheting. Bye.